Welcome to Back on the Broomstick,
A modern witch's spoken word grimoire.
where two witchy friends from way back are reconnecting to their pagan roots after a long period of mundanity.
We're rewalking the path of the wise and trying out all the latest spells, rituals, and magical theory in today's witchcraft and pagan practices.
So grab your wand and your incense,
Your cauldron and your crystals
and join us
as we get
back on the broomstick.
Hi, and welcome to Back on the Broomstick. I'm Layla, and on this episode, we're discussing Ostara, the Spring Equinox, and the season of spring. Are they the same thing? Are they different? What in the world are we talking about? Chelle is here to explain it to us.
Well, good Equinox, Ostara, whatever we want to just be calling it right now, to you, Layla. And I am Chelle, and I just want to say today I think we're going to have an argument.
Are we? We might, because honestly, I'm a little confused. We have been having this discussion about Ostara and spring and the spring equinox for a little over a month now.
I was going to say it's been weeks and weeks, and we just cannot see eye to eye on this.
And I think really we're probably arguing the same point from a different perspective. So we're going to let you guys decide what in the world we're arguing about. And Chelle, if you would please, why don't you explain the basis of our philosophical discussion on is the spring equinox the same or different from the season of spring? And should they be celebrated the same or different?
Now, I think it's important to note that I haven't always had this thought. Back when we were baby witches back in the day, I did kind of follow along that the Ostara and the Equinox thing are the exact same thing, celebrate at the same time. But as I get a little older, I am starting to see that I feel like they're two separate things that should be celebrated separately. Kind of to give you an example, today, thank everything out there, it is like 70, 75 degrees. Now, I know it's false spring. I'm under no illusions. But today is the day that I have seen a robin. I've seen a hawk. Well, I've seen hawks in the wintertime, but I have seen robins today. I have seen squirrels bustling around on the ground. I've actually seen a bee in the last 24 hours. That to me is time to celebrate spring is sprung, spring is here, the earth has awakened, which is separate and apart from equal day and equal night, and that equinox of everything having the yin and yang be perfectly synced.
The other side of that argument or philosophical discussion is that the equinox is a celestial event that is about so much more than just day and night being equal. It's the gateway to spring. It's the doorway. It's the official first day of spring. And I say that that is a day
Official by who?
by the calendar.
Okay.
Official
Okay.
by the calendar, official by common knowledge. So
Okay.
so that is the official day. That's the first day of spring. That's the day that we all celebrate, that we all sync up and say, this is the first day of spring. This is the equinox. And we celebrate that. And I don't see that that is any separate than also celebrating spring, because isn't that what witches do? We have the one day that we all sync up together and celebrate, but we also celebrate the energy of the season as it is local to us in our area in the season, as it shows up in our season, because you've seen a robin today. But what about the people in Washington State? Maybe it's still very cold there and they haven't seen a robin. There's no sync up there. So you should celebrate your land and your spring where you're at. But all of us together can celebrate that one day as we acknowledge the season in our area. So I'm really not sure what the argument here is.
Okay. So let's say Samhain, for example.
Okay.
Samhain is October 31st. It's October
Correct.
31st. It's October 31st.
Yes.
Like it just is.
Mm-hmm.
But the equinoxes, and this is actually, I could say the same thing about Mabon and the autumn equinox. So same argument, different season. So the equinox is roughly on the 20th, 21st, whether it be September or March. But fall can be before or after that. Spring can be
Yes.
before or after that.
Yes, that's part of celebrating your local area, celebrating the season in your area. That doesn't change when the equinox is. The equinox is a celestial event that happens everywhere at the same time. So it's easy for all of us to celebrate the moment together. But the season itself should be celebrated as it appears in your area. But we have that moment of togetherness, that moment that we all share.
So does that mean if I do a ritual on March 10th for Ostara that I'm somehow bastardly because I didn't wait till the 20th?
No, of course not. If you want to celebrate spring when you see spring in your area, you should. 100%. That's what we always say. That's what we've said from the beginning. You should always celebrate the season as it shows up in your area. But if you want to celebrate on the same day as everyone else, if you want to honor the first official day of spring with everyone else, that's like the syncing up time. That's the time when we all celebrate the season of spring together, regardless of how it shows up in our area. And the equinox is the culmination of it's the community. It's the communal time when we can all celebrate spring. This equinox says that after this day, the days get longer. Spring is here. The growing season is here. The time of life and light is here. We've come out of the dark. We've all come out of the dark. And this is a moment that is the same for everybody. We all know when that happens. The robin might show up at a different time in your area. The flowers might show up at a different time in your area. But the equinox happens the same time, the same moment, the world over for everybody.
I think we're kind of saying the same thing, just using completely different verbiage.
So I think, are you saying that the word Ostara should mean the season and you want equinox to mean the equinox? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if that's what I'm saying though. Maybe, maybe.
Okay, I guess I can kind of see that. And I do agree that celebrating the season of spring should be personal and local. It should very much be, when do you first sense that spring on the air? Maybe that's the day that you do your official spring ritual, or when you see that first robin, because that's part of paying attention to your local area and celebrating spring, how it shows up in your area.
And I think that's why, you and I have talked in the past about how it seems that folks are gearing up and preparing for holidays well before them. And I think part of that is exactly what you're saying, because in each person's particular place, things are emerging or going within at a different ebb and flow, depending on literally your geography.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is you're more aware of and want people to be more aware of the idea of celebrating the season throughout the whole season. We don't want to just be Ostara and Mabon pagans where we
Right,
just
right.
celebrate on the day. I think it sounds to me like you're advocating more for paying more attention to the season itself. Like, how do those energies show up for you?
It's not just a day. Beltane is on a fixed day. Same with Samhain, like I was saying previously. They're on a fixed day. But I feel like Ostara and Mabon aren't as fixed. You know what I mean?
I know it's going to sound counterintuitive, but the solstices and the equinoxes are actually more fixed than the holidays that have a specific day. And the reason for that is because they're celestial events. The reason they change is because our calendar is not as precise. But what happens in the sky is precise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you're right, exactly. There's just that not as fixed feeling.
I think when people look at the wheel of the year as just 8 dates,
That's what I'm trying to kind of pull away from.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't like when people do that. And I don't, which is why I wasn't really understanding your argument, because I see it as a flow. And I think that's what you're advocating for, is people should see the wheel as a flow.
Not just the 8 dates.
Yes, yes, it is so much more than just the dates. Those dates are there for a reason, but it helps the wheel to turn. It helps the cycle to turn, and it keeps us all on the same track. Because like you said, you should be celebrating the flow of the seasons. Spring showed up a couple weeks ago, and yes, thank you to the people who said it was probably skunk smell. You're probably partly right. But spring showed up a couple weeks ago. And so we have been celebrating that energy and flowing with that energy as it appears. But the date of the equinox is the same for everybody. So I love that touch point. It's that spoke to help keep that wheel turning, but you can't ignore the spaces in between.
Right. And I think maybe That is where you look at that. Layla came up with the best analogy ever. It's the not just focusing on those 8 particular dates.
That is so important because, again, you don't want to be the Yule and Samhain pagan.
Right, right.
And paying attention to your land, your local area is really what's important. You know, when Aidan Kelly named these dates, he randomly grabbed a goddess that was loosely maybe associated with the season. I think it appears once in some writings by Beattie, but other than that, Ostara doesn't really appear too much. So we're not even sure if she was really a goddess or if she had anything to do with this time. But that doesn't mean that the date itself is invalid. It just means that that's the one touch point we all share and that we need to pay attention to what spring and those energies show up like in our lives and in our area.
So I think it's not necessarily an argument. It's just the way of looking at it, because when I think of the equinox, I'm thinking that balance of light and dark and that moment of pure equality of the season and of the time. Whereas when I think of Ostara, I'm thinking renewal and rebirth and regrowth and, my pretty eggs, foraging and things getting back to being vibrant and full of life. That isn't always what I think about when I think about an equinox. You know what I'm saying?
I see. And I see the equinox, which this year, the spring equinox is Friday, March 20th at 10:46 a.m. Eastern Time. And I see the equinox more as a celestial touch point and a doorway. I do celebrate the balance. I like that. But to me, it's more of a threshold. It's a doorway. It's a magical gateway to the season that we all pass through. Some places don't get robins, but this spring gateway of this equinox, this celestial doorway, the whole planet walks through. And so to me, it's more just a symbol of the season. It's that touchstone of the season rather than something completely separate.
Kind of like that moment of collectiveness.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it like a house. The equinox is the doorway. You can't really have a house if you don't have a doorway to it. Or a child. Like if there's no birth, there's no child. So you have to have that gateway, that doorway to have the season. And yes, the season can start earlier. Like we've noticed today is freaking gorgeous. But that just goes along with the idea of the wheel of the year, that the whole system is a cycle, that one flows into the other. The holiday is the gateway, and the season is more about paying attention to your local area, to where you are, and watching how things are where you are as you come to that doorway and as you cross it. Celebrating the equinox as that moment of equality. I love it because it makes the whole world the same. It's all about the poles, right? It's all about the axial tilt is the reason for the season.
You're such a geek.
I know, sorry. But the earth is basically straight up and down, standing straight up and down in relationship to the sun. So the equator is pointed directly at the sun at noon, no matter where you are on the
No
planet.
matter where you are.
And
Yeah.
I like that moment of sameness around the world. I think that's kind of cool. And I do like your idea of celebrating balance as its own thing in that moment, as that balance that tips us into the light being longer. We're at the middle point of the light half of the year, and now the days are going to be longer. And I love that. This is the moment when the Oak King and the Holly King cross the equator. They pass, and the one goes south and the other comes north. There's a lot of magic in celebrating that moment itself.
That particular moment. Yeah.
I see what you're saying, that there's magic in celebrating that moment separate from the season, I guess, but it's difficult for me to see it as anything other than a doorway to the season.
I can kind of see it as well that I can see where they can intertwine and be collectively the same. But I do like the way, going back to you phrasing it, doing all the things in between those 8 holidays. I think that's where I've been kind of hung up lately is that I feel like it's not just the 8 days. This is a season that gets us to that next tick. And in between those ticks are different seasons and different celebrations and different themes to work off of and ways to lean on different traditions.
Seeing the wheel of the year with the holidays as the spokes and then the in-between parts is like the solid part of the wheel, and moving that forward really gives much more of a richness to the season. It gives you more things that you can do. And like you had said earlier, I do see people asking early and earlier, what can I do for the next holiday? And it's not so much that they want to focus on the day, even though it might seem that way a little bit. I think we're all hungry for the season. We're all hungry for what the season means,
And the
especially
magic of the season.
the magic of all of it. And that day gives us something collectively to focus on, but it's so beautiful to also be able to focus on and pay attention to what it
All
looks
the other
like
days.
all the other days and how that season shows up in your area, because spring in the desert in California is very, very different than spring in the mountains of Pennsylvania. And
Absolutely.
and celebrating that and seeing what's cool in your area is really the best part of that. And I know you really like coloring eggs for Ostara, and I really like smashing them. So, are there any other seasonal things that you like to do throughout the season, not just on Ostara, but after Ostara, beyond Ostara, between Ostara and Beltane?
This is definitely that breakout time, I like to call it, that time where you can go out and you can put your feet back into the ground and you can go out and commune and be one with nature
At
again.
least until it snows again.
I am definitely not a cold weather person, so you have to take advantage of these little days this time of year that you get, because again, fall, spring. I'm more of a boots on the ground, literally and figuratively. I know that you like to plant and I'm working on it. I've got some things I've kept alive now for almost a year and a half. I'm doing better, but that is still something I have to work into this time of year practice. I value the planting the seeds in the dirt. I'm just afraid I'm going to kill it later.
Understandable. I'm holding off on calling you an actual green thumb, but you have actually been keeping some plants alive.
It's getting tinted. The
It
thumb
is
is getting
tinted.
tinted.
Yes. And your outdoor garden the last couple of years, you've been growing some sage and some herbs and little veggies. You've been doing
It's
good.
the thing is inside that I am crazy that I have kept alive.
But yeah, getting your feet figuratively and literally into the dirt is one way to literally connect with the season and with your land. There's also the rush to spring cleaning. People like to do the spring cleaning. You can keep that kind of energy alive the whole year. I love to bring in live plants, like you said, and live flowers into my house, particularly this time of year. There's that shoot, I forget where it is, some Scandinavian country where they do the house burping. Have you heard about this?
Funny, I was literally just thinking about that and I
Of
and,
course you were.
and I actually opened the windows today for the first time and have done my own little, you gotta let some fresh air in, kind of let the staleness out.
Yes, exactly. And that's what this practice of house burping is. It's something that I would do as a witchy practice and, just a fresh air practice. As winter gets longer, sometimes even as cold as it is, on any sunny day, you can catch me opening all the windows just for a minute or so and then closing them right back up, especially in my office, just to let a little bit of that stale air out and fresh air in. And they call it house burping.
I also kind of today especially looked at it as, old stagnant energy and that cutting away and letting that flow out as you let new and fresh flow in.
Yeah, and if you do that intentionally, especially if you light a little bit of incense or if you've got a little simmer pot or something going to add to that good energy as you let the stale old energy out, that is a beautiful way anytime, any day of the season to let that spring air in.
So, what are some other things, Layla, that you like to focus on this time of year? Because it is kind of a little more freeing than, say, the last several months have been. What are some of your go-to things?
As far as witchy things go to, this is when I tend to clean out my herb cabinet. But I might make a big batch of incense and use up all the old herbs that I have. And then I'll take that through the whole house. Maybe not so much cleaning. I can't say I am the world's best house cleaning witch, but incense house cleansing, that I can do. So I like to make a big end of the season, beginning of the spring season batch of all my about to expire herbs and make a nice big incense and take that through the house. And sometimes I'll even take it out. We're lucky enough to have a fire pit. I can take some of that out back and do blessings for the land. Offer that to a small fire, burn whatever old incense I have, sometimes twigs. You know me. I'm constantly picking up twigs, acorns, bark.
You always have like a little forest thing around inside your house. It's got bark, it's got sticks, it's got acorns and pine cones.
Yeah, my little
You
forest
witchy
witch
pack
fellow
rat.
side, yeah. My witchy pack rat side tends to clean some of that out of my office, and I will offer that in an incense bowl or in a fire to kind of cleanse that and offer that smoke up as part of a blessing and cleansing for the land.
That literally sounds like the cliche spring cleaning, but it is
Yeah.
so magically necessary.
It is. It really is. And if anything's going to get me to clean, tell me it's a magical thing and that will help me get up and clean my kitchen. Fine. So yeah, if I can make a spell out of it, that definitely helps. But I can't say that spring cleaning is my witchy go-to. But walking the land and waking up the land, paying attention to what's growing, what's new, what little sprouts do I see that are coming up through that mud, and just feeling that energy. And our last episode, we talk about psychic abilities. And that's one of the things I'd like to do seasonally, I guess, is to walk around either my land or a park, woods nearby, and just really open myself up to the energies of change, of growth, of newness, and kind of feel that rush of new spring energy. It's just a beautiful way to get in touch with the energies of the land as everything wakes up. Just open your witchy senses to that and see what you feel.
I like that, but that sounds like a more after the false spring and the real spring comes.
True, we are going to have snow here in about a week. So keep your boots handy, witches.
Still mad at Punxsutawney Phil.
All right. Well, he did say it was going to be long. It does feel very, very warm and good, though.
You know, I had put some thought into tarot this time of year recently, and I came across a few things online. And I try not to buy into the online stuff, but there's a group of folks out there that kind of look at this time of year of Ostara is their new year. I feel like every holiday since Yule has been New Year to somebody, but they look at that as their new year. And it does make a little bit of sense because everything is about rebirth right now. And it does kind of coincide with the themes and thought processes of the new year. So I was thinking of doing a New Year's spread. And actually, the spread that I did back in January for our New Year's spread, I was actually going to redo that spread now and see what's different and what has changed. I always write down my readings, so I got that spread from when I did it back in January and what the cards were. So I wanted to redo that. And I was thinking of doing it on the equinox, redoing it, and what does this version of New Year bring?
I think we had talked a little bit back in January about not just doing a year-long spread, but checking in with yourself throughout the year to
Right.
see how your goals are. And I love that. And I think that doing that on the equinoxes and the solstices, we pretty much started this at Yule. And so now is a great time. Every 3 months, check in, see where things are at, see how your goals, not your resolutions,
Nope.
see how your goals and your plans for 2026 are coming and see what direction spirit and the universe thinks that you should go in. So touch base with your cards.
And being the equinox, you are kind of on that thin line of the light side and the dark side, ready to kind of tip forward. And where are you at before you take this next plunge?
Hmm.
So I was actually going to circle back to that tarot spread for this time of year.
And I like to do a balanced equinox spread. I'm so glad that you said light and dark because that fits perfectly into this. So it's a relatively simple spread, 3 cards on one side and 3 cards on the other. And like most tarot spreads I create, there's a twist. The left side is the dark half, and the right side is the light half. You're going to deal the cards from left to right, 3 cards on the left, then 3 cards on the right. But every card on the left for the dark half, you're going to reverse. And every card on the right for the light half, you're going to make sure is upright. And you will read the reversed meaning for the dark half and the upright meaning for the light portion. So you will get that balance of where you're at right now at this moment. What's the balance point that you're standing on? And you can pick one more card if you want to. You can pick one card to be that pivot point, that knife's edge, that blade that you're standing on,
That dead
balance,
center middle, yeah.
dead center middle, balance between the light and dark, and let that one come out how it comes out, reversed or right side up. And so that's your equinox spread.
I like that because I would interpret if it came out reversed, kind of the things you need to let go of from the past to move forward. And if
Mhm.
it came up in a forward position, kind of the things that are going to motivate you to keep moving forward.
Ah, so if that balance point comes up reversed, you're saying that points more towards the letting
Correct.
go. Nice. All
Correct.
right. Yeah, I see
Correct.
that. Yeah. See, I love when we collaborate on this stuff. It comes out so good.
And this is called spread creation.
That's right, people. So, you've got a couple things to do. We are also going to have another episode coming up here in a week or so about spells and witchy activities to get you from Ostara to Beltane.
Wow, I can't even believe we're at the Ostara to Beltane stretch of this. Wow, time flies, man.
Things are crazy. We're getting ready to go to Brushwood here in a couple months. Crystal City Circle, my local community, is coming up on our 1 year first anniversary. Very
Clap,
excited
clap,
about
clap,
that.
clap, 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 clap.
Yes, yes, yes. And so there's all sorts of crazy, wonderful things going on. It's a pretty exciting spring.
'Tis the season for growth and renewal.
That's very true. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Back on the Broomstick. Please like, subscribe, tell a friend, tell a stranger, tell your neighbor, tell a coworker, leave us a review, give us some stars. We really appreciate it, and it helps other people to find the show. So hopefully you guys are getting your toes in the mud and enjoying your beautiful, hopefully not too false spring. Hopefully it's just an early spring.
Plant those seeds, whether it's literal or figurative.
And keep it witchy.